welcome to another episode of SaaS Leaders Lounge, your premier destination for cutting-edge insights into the cybersecurity and wider software space. Today, in our Cyber Insight series, we're joined by Oren, the co-founder and CPO of Veriti AI. Hi, Oren, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm very good. Good to be here, Paris.
It's nice to have you here. And how's the weather treating you in Israel?
It's good. The weather is good. Situation is a challenge that we have in those days. But I was working in a startup. She just work all the time. But I think I like it.
That's great. And just in terms of your schedule, I know there's a lot of upcoming conferences. There was one in Israel, recently, and also you was on a panel discussion at the Cyber Summit in New York. So we'll cover those topics in a few moments. But just for the guests, if you could just share with our audience a bit of information about your background, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Oren, one of the founders of Veriti. I founded the company 3 years ago with Adi, my co-founder. He's the CEO. Prior to that, I worked at Checkpoint for 5 years at the CTO team. As the management there defined me in the past, I was a CLO, not by title, but by actual, the Chief Log Officer. So actually, I managed the entire infrastructure or structure of logs and configurations. And before that, I've served for 14 years, I think, almost 14 years in the A200 unit. So I've done offense most of my years. Lots of friends in the industry done the same. Then moved to defense, and now Veriti. So that's me.
Thanks for the summary. And for those that don't know, the 8200 unit is a prestigious unit in Israel. How did you get into it, and how important was your time there, prior to moving to Checkpoint and building Veriti AI?
So to get into the unit or any intelligence unit, you have lots of tasks that you need to do, but it's prior testing, I will say. You go to high school, and in high school, they validate you upfront. I started with cybersecurity before that, before the army, doing some stuff, and they find you. They actually find the relevant ones for the relevant roles. There is a massive and lots of work for that to find the relevant ones for the specific roles that are needed. But I think after getting in and doing all the courses and all the training needed, one of the main things that I got, and I think lots of my friends got, is the ability to just to share, to understand, to create, but also to fail. The idea is that if you can create all the new stuff, new technology, some of it you will have a success and some of it you will not. But if you have not an endless budget, if you have an army or a state budget, you can actually create technologies. It will take you 6 months. That's fine. You will learn over time how to do that faster. But second, you do not fear because there are no investors. It's just the country and nation just to save and to help your country. And by doing that, you are breaking boundaries, all of them. And I think this is what we see also in the industry. Lots of founders are from 800 units and other units like that. And it's because there were no boundaries for us. They told us this is the challenge. And in one of the calls I had a few months ago with one of the friends, he said, I think that they gave us challenges that they have not been able to solve. But they told us, just solve it. And because we are young and we have time, I didn't have kids at that time, you just work like hell. And when you work hard, and you know that maybe you will have a success, but you have an endless budget, endless time, very good resources and amazing people. It's like an entrepreneur. Everybody are an entrepreneur there, but you don't have the boundaries. So you can actually create new. So I think that's what I got from there, the ability to create, to think about the problem and maybe to find a way to fix it or to find a solution for the problem. That got me into Checkpoint with the problems that I've seen there and the solutions that I believe I gave with the other team members, of course. But eventually, when I'm seeing Veriti today, we've seen a problem, me and Adi, and it was, okay, that's a massive one. How can we resolve it? Let's just resolve it because we've done it before. In other cases, we know we can. So let's try. I think that's from an entrepreneur side. That's an important part. Don't be afraid.
Amazing. And when I did see the wealth of experience you had both on the offensive and defensive side, I was, really excited to bring you to the podcast and for you to share your wisdom. And for those that, don't know, as you mentioned, you had a lot of creativity opportunities within the 8200 unit, but also, the chance to use those entrepreneurial skill sets that you had. And with the wealth of experience that you had there and also at Checkpoint Technology, what would you say was the biggest lessons that you learned in terms of the research and development piece? Because obviously that was a key part in your role in the early days.
I think the lesson that I got and we've implemented it is in Veriti, that you have amazing ideas all day and all night. You can think about, you have a dream, you want to achieve it, but you have so many dreams. So first of all, you need to prioritize. And it's the difference between the different ways to develop is to understand the market and the business. This is something that is super important that I've learned over time. You can find a gap, you can try to solve it. And I had a call with an entrepreneur that wanted just an assistance, just to meet. So we sat up for coffee. He had an amazing idea. But what I've learned over time is that you need to validate the market before. You need to validate or to verify if there is a potential business that you can gain from it, or you'll be able to go to your investors and say, yeah, I have a business case. So I think what I got in is the ability with the team to think about, okay, what is the business case behind this feature, this idea, this vision, and to understand fast, or to try to understand fast if there is a potential value, first of all, to a customer. If there is a potential value, what's the potential outcome? Is just a dream, or is it something that you can actually make? And in today's world, by the way, with all of the new AI technologies, and we use, of course, AI like everyone else, now you can achieve much more and you can dream much more. I'm just stating that you can actually achieve so much. Just don't be afraid and prioritize. You don't have all the resources you need. You don't have all the budget that you must have. You need to prioritize in a very fluent way for your company and for your investors, of course. And that's what we do. I've learned that over time, and I believe me and Adi, of course, my other co-founder, we are achieving the success with that, to understand how to go in the right path.
I understand it. If we talk about the total addressable market and being able to carve that out early on, how was you and Adi able to really define what the addressable market was and really fine tune your message, so when you got in front of investors and advisors and those that were helping you on that business journey, when was it apparent that you was onto something great?
For that, we need to understand a bit on the problem that we come to solve. And the problem or the challenge that we saw is in the inability of organizations to manage their security controls. It's super simple. You've bought well, you have amazing controls, you have an EDR, OS management from security perspective, patch management, vulnerability management, a firewall, a WAF, SEC. You have so many ways and techs to manage your stack. But eventually organizations are being breached all day. And one of the main root causes is the misconfigurations in the tool themselves. So we went to so many organizations before we've done the investment, and we just asked, is that a real problem? Do you have all the right tools, or you don't have it? In parallel, by the way, all the budgetary challenges in the globe, they said we need to reduce. Like, I have too many and I don't have enough manpower. I will not get new FTEs to manage all this stack. So I'm looking for automations. Okay, the world of automation is something that the entire globe is working on. Again, AI is assisting us a lot with that. But if I will take the automation, that will give you a simple value. It will find the misconfiguration. It will find the risk that you have. It will tell you that's how you solve it. And then I will solve it, actually remediate the problem. That's the basic value proposition. Let's find the risk. And to achieve that, we've went to so many design partners at the start. We've learned something that is important. It's naive. It's naive. Yeah, let's enable all the tech. It's easy. Let's enable everything. And then, we'll be protected. Yeah, but then call on Sunday morning to the infrastructure team when the backup servers doesn't work, or the infrastructure is down because someone enabled a security control or a feature. How can we validate? There is no business impact on the way. And then we've learned it's more complex and we cannot be naive. It starts with let's enable and let's maximize and let's find the gap and let me tell you exactly what you need to do. Eventually today they trust us and they do that and they enable. But let me validate, and that's what we learn from the field. Let me validate it to not break your business. And that's one of the keys functionality that I believe that are important. Don't be naive. And we are not naive. The product itself is looking to solve a problem. That's the business impact the security controls are causing. because you want to use them more. So let you use them more, but don't break the business. So we've learned that over time, and we've founded a company, and we went to the investors with those findings from the field, from working with design partners. And when we brought them to the investors to speak with them, they said, we're going to purchase the product because if it will solve what they promise, done. It's reduction in manpower. It's just risk reduction, generally speaking. And it's doing more with what I have because I have a budgetary challenge. So that's the journey that we've done. And I believe and I'm seeing that we've achieved success there.
Thank you for sharing that. And something that I've also seen in the industry is, when companies are implementing so many different security systems, having a unified platform where they can manage their posture is, pivotal for businesses, and especially with, reducing budgets and, increasing attacks, as we call it. We need to be able to have this under control. And I guess Verity's approach differs from the traditional security or posture management company in what you do, and the embedding of AI has obviously helped you to be able to help with, the risk and remediation piece. But how do you guys set out to be the number one unified posture management platform?
So we started with understanding what is in the market. You have the CSPM world. And when me and Adi sat down, we said there are beasts there. Like in the CSPM, it's amazing, an amazing area. There are amazing companies, the big ones, the small ones. As an MSSPs today, you can buy a CSPM as an MSSP that manages CSPM. There are so many ways. Okay, let's not go in this battle. There are so many players there. Fine. Then we went to data, DSPM. So many amazing companies. The biggest ones have, the smallest ones have, everyone have. What is the unique? Where should we go from a security posture management? So we've looked at, we started with Gartner, of course, but we looked at the market and we've seen that there is no coverage for the actual security controls that everyone have. That's a firewall, that's an EDR, that's a WAF, that's an OS. There are spreaded ones. Those are doing some of the OS, and that's it. Those are doing some of the firewall, but that's it. But how about cross? How about between them? So that was the first step that we've seen. That's why we've chosen this path from security posture management to the ability to analyze and to cross-correlate. That's the important part, cross-correlate. But the second part was to understand that there is an MSSP and service providers area. You can go and sell direct, good luck, or you can work with resellers, with MSSPs, with service providers, and they will give you value. And we know lots of them. We worked in the past with lots of them, and today we're working with lots of them. Because it's a multiplier, first of all, for the business, but the value, in some cases, is not only for the customer itself. We found out that the value is also to the service provider that can prove that he has done the job. Because if you are changing configuration and an attack was blocked, amazing. Someone needs to get the credit on that. We can prove the credit, and we can validate that the service provider will not crash the business, because then they will lose their job or the deal as a service provider. So we've taken an approach of starting the opposite, first of all. So starting from a firewall, moving to a WAF, moving to an EDR, moving to a vulnerability assessment, a CNAP, like those areas, and much more that we support today. And that's why we are different. With a different approach, a different audience, by the way. But now going to service providers, we have a major offering because they offer a service on the tools that we support. And last thing, we do not fight with the vendors. All of them are amazing. All of the ones that we integrate, I cannot and I will not replace them. I will just make them better for the customer. So the vendor itself will be happy. That's why we're working with them, of course, with all of them. If they look so great and they block so much, they will not be replaced. I will show the value of them. So it's a mutual interest of everyone. Become Switzerland, I will say, between everyone. So that's how we got into the point that we are now. And as a leader, I'm saying, from a company perspective, that it takes time. It takes time to understand those vendors, those technologies. You need to purchase a lot. It just takes time. You cannot just open a company and understand, in 6 months or in a year. Just to create the machine learning takes you so much time to analyze and to create the integrations. But now we're in a position that it all works. So, run very fast.
Thank you. And Oren, I noticed you have many integrations, even some including Checkpoint, etc. And how important for you is having those integrations to be able to, approach these problems and ensure that you can solve the customer's challenges.
When you will go to any client that deployed a security control, he deployed it differently from the client next to him. You'll go to the next office next to him in the building. He bought the same stack, the same thing. He just connected it differently. So the integrations are important, not with, yeah, I'm integrated with the logs. Yeah, I'm integrated with the network, with the policy, with everything that we collect, with vulnerability data. It's about the different structures of the product. It's actually doing a master in this area, because if you will name a vendor, I will tell you how many ways they have to deploy. And if you want to integrate with the vendor, it's not just, let's buy the cloud version. That's it, simple. Of course, we start with the cloud version, like any vendor that is doing integrations, but then you go to the bigger ones. They don't have cloud versions. They have on-prem. Then you need to buy that. It will take time. They need to research it. So again, it's not to be naive. When you integrate with the vendor itself have so many variants, because we have customers that needs different variants. And it's when you're seeing a logo in our website or like inside the product in the integration page, it's simple. Yeah, let's integrate with vendor X. Of course, there are 11 ways to deploy it. There are 11 ways to collect the data. We need to solve and to support all of the ways. This is part of the hard work behind the scenes, to be able to integrate with all of the variants, and we've achieved that. That's why we are now doing an integration. We are going to a customer. I'm doing a questionnaire. I'm asking, what do you have? He will say the name of the vendor. I know that I have all of his versions, all of his stack already in my lab, already done all the job, so we can move forward and there will be no hassle. That's the importance of the integrations. And the last piece on that, in some of the vendors, there are no integrations. They have not created an API. That's why in some cases you need to approach the vendor, you need to work with them, because there are other ways to collect the data from the vendors. They have their own ways. You need partnerships for that. That's why we are very strong also from a partnership perspective, because we actually work with the vendors. So if they don't have an API, I know exactly what they are missing. I will give them the knowledge, and we have a mutual customer now. They will resolve it. So that's why partnership is important also.
I love the piece on collaboration. And one question I have around experience in AI, I know you did a lot of work in that area at Checkpoint, and with AI taking such a boom in the market, and many, not just security, but vendors across all industries are trying to embed AI into their solutions. How has your expertise in machine learning and AI helped to build the innovation and advanced, solution that you've created, where you're able to approach risk mitigation and exposure remediation?
The first step when you build a machine learning in the old years, I will say, but also today, when you want to use a generative AI, is to understand that it doesn't know all the data or all the data structures. For example, you can analyze a log, but it's all about the context of the log, and it's all about a tag on the log itself. As an example for it, if you have a log that states you're infected, are you? Is that true? Is that not? So you have 1,000 logs. How have you managed to understand if, as an analyst, for example, or as a hunter in the SOC or with the MDR, that this host is infected? By collecting data, by collecting the tagged data, you have a baseline. These baselines allow you to use the AI, the generative AI, but then to validate with a human that he's correct. Again, you can use what there is outside. If you can just use it, you don't need to open any company. You just need to use the generative AI. That's it. So simple. It was solved. It was from an infrastructure perspective, from answering a question that, am I protected? Or what are my top risks? Or, again, name the question. It's not enough just to ask the AI. You need to feed it before. You need to train it a bit before. But what I've learned on AI over the years, and there was a conference in Philadelphia that I went 2 months ago. The main question from the audience was, should I be afraid from AI that the vendors will take my data out without asking me? Think about that. You're using Office 365. You're using any tool today on your laptop. Does they use an AI? If they do, is that a generative AI or just a machine learning that run locally or inside the system themselves? What if it's generative AI, quote unquote, that all of us uses? What is the data that is being sent outside? How much? How can you protect from that? And this is an important note for AI. When you go and check a vendor, when you go and analyze what the vendor have, for the clients, I'm saying that because we support that. Validate that when they are using an AI, they don't send anything out, or they have the technology to validate that there is no DLP event. Because if you have a DLP event, the old world of DLP, yes, everyone needs a technology of data loss protection. That's it. But now Gen AI is vector to a DLP. So what if you can ask the vendor, what is the Gen AI that you use? And I'm being asked that all the time. How can you protect from it? Because if you send data outside, maybe it's super internal. We've solved it. There are two ways to solve it that we found, and we solved in both ways because there are two types of customers that we've seen. Each one of them needed a different solution. But eventually AI is amazing today because the old world of tag data all the time, it's been changed. The risk is the thing today. And for vendors like me or like anyone, the first question they need to think about is, how do you protect your customers from an AI, from the data that will be sent to the service provider of the AI? They will get access. Protect your customers, and that's what we do.
Customer first, that's the way. And just in terms of, as we delve into continuous threat exposure management, I'd love to hear your take on that and how important it is for, moving forward the industry.
Over the years, and we spoke with Gartner a lot, and we'll go to the conferences and we'll meet with my friends and colleagues from the industry, co-founders and from the big vendors. One of the structures that we've learned is that we need to understand what are our exposures. Exposure management, the simple one, the known one that you must have in some cases, even from compliance perspective. And you have a gap, you have an exposure. Okay. Even the vulnerability assessment tools are calling it an exposure. Even the EDRs have a tab for exposure management. But the importance of exposure is one, it's a must, a list of exposures. But then you need to understand that it's not enough. So I have a list of exposures. What now? I have 3 employees in the team. Good luck to fix all the exposures. You'll have a new exposure tomorrow and a new one the day after. It's a valid and a live market. When you will acquire a company as a subsidiary, you'll have a lot of new ones. And now you need to take care of them because it's under your responsibility as a CISO. There is a new company under you that you don't have any knowledge on their stack. So it's exposure management. We call it exposure remediation from our side. It's not only about finding the exposure. It's about fixing the problem and testing again. Think about finding an exposure, fixing it, or just block it, not allowing the exposure to be there anymore, and then check again. That means you can gain points. If there are 100 exposures, and we will calculate and validate and verify and prioritize all the nice tools, you will get it. It will be an amazing GUI that everyone have, but eventually you will fix the problem. Fix the problem can be a ticket to an ITSM system because it's someone else. You are too big to actually fix stuff in a simple way. Just click the button. Or if you have a few thousand employees and 3 owners that found exposures or got the access to the exposures, we will just fix them. We will reduce the risk. So the risk reduction is the area that we are focusing on, but from exposure management, it's exposure remediation. It's not only about give me the list. It's yet another list. Let's reduce the list. Let's fix it. And the last piece for it is pen testing. Pen testing is the automatic pen testing or the manual pen testing. Will find so much stuff and they will have a success every time. It will take them half an hour or 6 hours or 6 days. Depends how have you hardened the security controls to block them. But they will have a success eventually. When they succeed, what do? You go to the controls and you fix them. You go and you block the next thing. You change configuration. Maybe you even buy new security tools to block all of it. But what if I can just tell you, I will fix it and then run it again. And then it will take them 6 weeks. They will have a success every time. That's their job, but it just taken more time. Going back and just to summarize that, exposure management is a crazy field. Everyone have an offering there from different approaches. But I believe it's not only about exposing the gap, it's also resolving and solving it. And a platform that connects to multiple security controls in your organization, you already have them. That's what me and Adi thought is the right way. And we are seeing it's the right way now, because we can actually resolve the problem. It's not only about exposing the gap, it's also remediating it.
Thank you, Oren. And I guess from my piece, what I took from that as well is that it enables organizations to have more of a holistic view of the entire security stack and to
Indeed.
be able to shorten the time of remediations. And I guess something I took from the Veriti website is, on average, I should say, there's 27 or so remediations performed every time a user is accessing the platform. So just wanted to understand, what are the unique challenges that you encountered in developing such a dynamic and responsive system?
The main challenge was internal politics. It's not about the tech. It's definitely not the tech. We've solved the tech. That's not the problem. It can be resolved. It just takes time, budget, and the right manpower for it. And you need to purchase all the tools. Internal politics means that you will ask yourself, who is the buyer? For exposure management, that's the risk team. For the big organization, they have 15,000 employees. The risk team, they can actually budget it and pay for it. But it's not, again, only about seeing the gaps. It's about fixing them. And if the WAF team needs to fix it, today the broken processes, the risk management needs to open a ticket to them. They need to wait until they will prioritize it, and then they need to wait until they will be able to push the change. So I think that when we founded the company, it was, okay, who is the buyer? First of all, where do we want to go? Who is the one we want to address? Is that the owner of the risk in the organization, quote unquote, or the owner of the change? What we've built is something that allows both of them to work with and like RBAC and the right roles and responsibilities from like taking actions. One can open a ticket, the other one can take a remediation on which tool, on the tool that he owns based on the ITSM system, based on the tagging that they've done. That was the area that we've eventually breaking apart to understand, not the owner. Everyone wants to own this kind of a tool because manage everything. The CISO wants to see everything that is going on. Of course, its posture, the status, is the politics. But we've understood exactly how to break it apart because, again, the offering is not only to find an exposure, it's to fix it. And that's between teams in organization. I think the example for it is one of the biggest POCs we've done. It was an enormous one. They brought one team to the POC. We've shown them what we've done. And then they said, okay, we want to show it to another team. That's fine. But who is taking the remediation? We do. You can bring anyone that you want. If you are taking the action, then I actually reduce time for you. I've shown them how to resolve it. It's more about internal politics and organizations. Again, it took us time to understand exactly how to break it apart, and we've done it. That's why we're successful today and selling a lot. But it's the approach. It's not about the tech. The tech, it just takes time, knowledge, experience, and budget. By the way, last thing, the difference or to achieve a comprehensive differentiator, it's about the people, first of all, that knows exactly how those tools works. It's not, yeah, let's bring 200 analysts, they will know the job. No, you need to bring the ones from the vendors that has done the work in the right way. This is the first thing. And the second, you need data set. You need data. You need design partners that are willing to share data with you. And we've done that. And by doing those two, we've done a success.
You work with a lot of customers in the healthcare and manufacturing space. Being able for them to continue their operational excellence and efficiency is critical for them. How important was it for you to strike a balance between automation and validation to ensure effective risk mitigation?
That's a good one. Automation, full automation, it's not there. The SOAR market was built years ago. It started with a SIM, moved to an EDR, then an XDR, and then ending a SOAR. And then you have a platform that analyzes all of the logs, and you have a platform that you can create automations. That's for the SOC and for the risk management. The infrastructure teams are working with that because they have their own job. They're not writing automation. Maybe some of them, yes, that I've seen, but the biggest ones. But you give a healthcare organization, we have so many examples there, they will not use automations ever. Because if they will use an automation of, and let's take the simplest use case, patch management. If they will run a patch all on the Windows Vista in the organization, the MRI will stop working. I've seen that a few times. It was a disaster. Again, we didn't done that. I'm not pushing a patch to an MRI. But when you are doing that, you don't have the insurance anymore on the CT or the MRI, and you're done. So from OT, IoT, generally speaking, that's a problem. You cannot patch. That's why from a messaging, from a directive, they have a compensating control. And that's why they want the automation, but they want to validate. And the validation is no business impact will be happening if I will conduct the change. And the business impact can be simple. Yeah, you will be protected from the vulnerability, definitely. But the data will not be written to the database, so the doctor will go and nothing on the patient. That's bad, because that's their business. Our life is their business in a hospital case. And when we are getting in, unfortunately, in all of the cases, this is one of the first things that we see, business disruption. When you have a business disruption event, the only question I'm being asked there is, can you solve it? Yeah, I can solve it, because it's a business oriented. It's all about the business. It's all about not taking down the business from a continuously or the business continuity side, but also not get hacked. That's the tension that we live in. It's a good question, because IoT, OT, all of those areas have the massive challenge today. They cannot patch, and they are getting hacked every day because of a budget, not enough manpower. They have amazing security controls. Everyone has. It's just because they don't enable it. If they will enable everything to block mode, 100% block mode, but no doctor will be able to work. That's why it's a good question, because actually that's the tension we try to solve, to maximum the security you have with reducing the exposures and the risk, but also reducing the risk from business impact. That's something a business owner understands.
And as you said, when you relate it to the case of hospitals, that they're going to want speed of action as well. So somebody that can come in and fix the problem pretty fast, so that, as you said,
Indeed.
business isn't disrupted for too much time. But just in terms of, as we move towards, internal Veriti topics and building a team, founding the business, I'm always interested to speak to founders and understand how important that decision was to decide whether to go alone or go with a co-founder, and how those varying degrees of expertise and approaches lend success to each other.
One of the most important things that you do is to choose or to work with your partner. My wife is saying that I'm speaking or working with Adi more than with her, because actually I'm with him much more. All day, most of the nights, all of the weekends, we just work all the time together, but we know very good each other for years. The important part is to differentiate like roles and responsibilities. I know how to manage a product. I know how to manage R&D, how to think with the CTO, what is the next level, and how to go deep to the data. Adiz knows very well how to manage the business, how to manage the investors, how to manage the sales in the organization. It's so different. The ecosystem of an organization you build, it's based on, again, it's an ecosystem. Everyone needs to work together. But one leader, it's hard. If only one can do that with everyone, Elon Musk, crazy, like he can do everything. I get it. There are some uniqueness there. I'm not Elon Musk. I can do as much as I can. And that's why when you choose your partner, it's important to see that you are doing a bit different from each other, because then you can take your area, but you have your partner for the entire journey that is taking the different area, but you work together. To do 5 partners or 3 or 4, one of the investors told me when we took the investment, the seed, one that eventually didn't get into the seed, he told me, how many founders do you have? I said, 1. I said, okay, and how about if you have 3, what do you think? I said, I think it will be bad. So he told me, you married your wife, right? I said, yeah. So you need to handle her. I said, no, we need to work together. Exactly. Can you have 4 wives? That's a good question. I cannot personally have 4 wives. I have my wife. I love her. I want to be with her. And this is my path together. We are building something together. to have 4 people with you, how do you build it together? And that's why I believe 2, maximum 3, it's enough, because you need to decide eventually. You can be in the position you do not agree, and there is a mechanism to overcome it, and we have it. But if 5 people do not agree, just ban it for a company. So I believe I chose well. I hope that he chose well from the other side. But the ecosystem works. It's just an ecosystem that we've built. So we work together. That's the thing.
Thank you. And so far, you and Adi's been very successful. And, you mentioned earlier in the conversation, internal politics in any organization that's fast growing, there is going to be, conflict of decisions and ideas. But in terms of when you know somebody as well as your co-founder and you've been friends with him for so long, I guess you're able to remediate these problems in such a way that you can continue the business pretty quickly and kind of overcome any disagreements. And in terms of having investors, you mentioned the investors was talking to you about having maybe more founders involved, etc. How influential have they been in helping to position Veriti and sharpen the message that you guys want to get to the market?
To position an area that have a budget line, but we started again 3 years ago. Before there was more focus on maximizing your security stack and unified security posture management and CTEM. There are so many areas that are now in the focus. The best way that we have found is to bring the best people. I think we brought the number 1 CMO that I can think of. And when you lead a company, you can give a directive, you can give a direction, but you need to understand you don't know everything. That's why when you bring the best people you can, you give them the ability to shine and to take the responsibility. The responsibility is on you. But when you give them the ability to shine and to put themselves on the table, give them the budget, the manpower, and the time, eventually you can see over time how the website was changed. It was changed not so much, but it was changed in our message. When we emphasize what we do, it's understandable. Now, it took us 3 years, not because it took time to do that, because today, if you open a Gartner report, just log in and search for Veriti, you will find so many places that we are in, because it takes time to explain to the ecosystem. When you are the entrepreneur of the area, you need to open in front of the industry, in front of the one who define what is needed in the industry. So it took time. And now we know exactly what we do and what we give. And the best example for it is the cyber attack that we are now at the last day of the cyber attack in Israel. And the best example is we got some people that came that, I know what you do. How? Like, I've never met you. How do you know? And I'm smiling. We have lots of data outside. So my partner or reseller just came. We've opened the website. We understood exactly what you do. I want to see them. I want to move on. I want to see because I have the problem. If he was able to understand the vision and what we do and connect it to a real problem you have and have the time to come, my CMO has done a good job. It's not on me. It's not on the co-founder. He is the one responsible for the success. And by the way, they're responsible for the success. You as the founder is responsible to take the stuff that didn't work and to fix it and make it work and to give it to them back. So he's done a great job. We've helped and we've guided him. But again, that's the state of mind. It's all about the ownership. And when someone got an ownership on something, he's done a great job.
Kudos to him. And to be honest, I love that you're, enabling and empowering your team. And sometimes, founders, they build a company and they find it hard to relieve responsibility of key areas. But as you know, marketing is a big one, especially when you're trying to build your brand and get awareness in the market. So that's great that he's, given the tools and the freedom to do amazing things. And just on the piece of, you mentioned being in the Gartner quadrant and, being in many different areas, I guess the question I have is when you are visionaries in the market somewhere, how do you stay abreast of technology advancements and ensure that, the second wave of technology companies that have said, hey, I've seen what Veriti are doing, we can do it slightly better and, embed new kind of tools. How are you able to keep the second tier of cybersecurity companies in your area from overtaking you?
The CTO team with the machine learning team and the architect teams are three spirits, what I'm calling it in the office. We thought about an idea. We have now a new initiative, a new idea, like crazy one. And I sat with the team. We have like the week. I said, that's my idea. I said, that's crazy to do. That's connected to what we do, but that's like, I said, I know. So try it. And they've succeeded with the POC. Now, if you're in the position to have a team of technologies that are not in the development cycle and release features all day, that's like, how do you build a product? They're working after the product management. They're working after the visionary side. Or when I come, I'm telling them, let's think about that. Let's go this way. And you have the time to do it. That's how you release new. I've seen startups that doesn't have this position of a CTO, a deep tech CTO, like crazy, plus the team behind him, that they can run very fast. They don't care, quote unquote, if it looks good, if it doesn't look good, because they don't develop for the product. They develop to prove a point that the technology is there. That's how we've added more and more machine learning algorithms, new ones, because they thought about an idea. One of our doctors thought about an idea. I told him, go for it. Send me some of the data in the Slack. I will work with you. Go for it. When he finished it, R&D looked at it and said, that's a good idea. I said, yeah, I just finished the POC. The algorithm actually works. I said, okay, that's design. And then the product can take it. So I think the way to do it is to understand you need to build a team that is not a part of just the R&D. You need to take a team internally that will create the next internal startup, even when you are a startup. And we are now in this position. I have the team, I have the manpower.
I like it, and I like that you're also, putting together this A team to be able to do this. You mentioned the architecture, the product team, engineering, R&D all coming together, so that's great. And just as a founder in the cybersecurity space with a lot of experience in R&D, I always like to ask, the question of what do you see as the next emerging trends in the industry, and how you and Veriti positioning yourself to address these challenges? I know you mentioned innovation, kind of creating a startup within a startup, but how do you keep your ear to the market and see what trends are developing?
So in 90% of the podcast, the other ones will say, I listen to my customers. Of course I listen to my customers. I don't listen to so I understand there is a gap in one. I go to the second one, to the third one. When I go to the 10th one, I find it's the same gap. Okay, it's a feature. It's not a vision. It's something that we've just found that is a cross between them. It's not the next thing that people cannot imagine, or they can imagine, but they don't know about the problem. I think that as a next step, so areas, we see the biggest vendors in the globe are building and keep building the infrastructure for SIM, XDR, SOAR, but then the new levels of it to cross-correlate the data into one place. I believe in 2024 and 2025, the market will be in end of 2020 with service providers. Everything will be about service. Everything. All the biggest vendors will have offering and platforms. All the smallest vendors will build a platforms. So the biggest vendor will acquire them. So they will have a platform. The MSSPs will be built in new ones. You have 1,000 or 1,200 resellers only in the US. All of them will have an offering for MSSP, and all of the customers will go there because they don't have enough manpower. The dollar is in challenge, up and down all day, and you want to hire more, but you don't have enough. You have 5 FTEs, that's what you have. I believe the next phase, and we're working on that also, next phase is MSSPs or service providers. They will be the focus of lots of the industry because they're a multiplier on business and the customers are going there. They can buy a product, who will manage it? Any product, from a marketing product to a security product, you need a service provider. That's why it's the biggest market in the globe today. It will be the biggest and it will become even bigger. So that's my prediction, I will say. But that's also when the strategy goes from the product side. I want to be there before everyone.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you're kind of implementing that focus now. Just as we move towards quick-fire questions, I just want to start by asking you, what is the first job that you had in your career? Is it the 8200 role?
No, I was a violin player. I played for a violin for 14 years. Yeah, from the age of 3 or 4, when my mom pushed me to the age of 18 before I joined the army. So I played for lots of singers. Some of them are known, for example, Orphanland. If someone from the audience knows Orphanland, go to the Mabul disc and have a look if Oren Koren is there, because I'm there. So it's just making music, and I've done. It was not about the price or to get paid for it. I created music, I wrote music, and I played for like orchestras on my first years. So that's my real job as a player.
Amazing, a musician, and something that I guess you do you still do a bit of play. Do you play the violin every now and again still? Or?
Yeah, I do. Two of my brothers have like a band, so I joined them. I had bands before when I was a checkpoint and also in the army. Today I have less time to have a band, but maybe in a few years I will go back like fully. Today just once a month or twice a month.
Thank you for sharing it. Would you say you prefer sweet or spicy food?
Spicy,
So do I. Great.
definitely.
And if I could ask you, what would be your favorite dish then?
There are dumplings from one of the restaurants that I like. It's so spicy that you can cry, but I like it so much. So small dumplings, that's a good one.
And who is somebody in the industry that you have not met but would love to spend a few hours, picking their brains on some topics?
So I think that in the industry, when I look on what we have, it all started with networking so many years ago, with the ones who designed the basic network, the cables, the SDH world. I've started there. I know like these areas also. So I think I have two. One are the ones who actually wrote the basic technology of the networking today, not because of how they built it and to find vulnerabilities there, is to find out how they thought about that, like to write a technology that allows you to communicate. This is one. And second, I'm sure that people said Elon Musk in the past, definitely. He's not in my industry. But to get the time to ask him, I have a few questions I have to ask. To ask him, I believe he will give me the non-traditional responses. It's not about getting how to run the business, and that's an important thing. There are so many that can actually train and teach me. But the non-traditional response is something that can open my mind. I think so. Also, just to open the mind.
Thank you for that. And is there a favorite book that you have that comes to mind?
I have a favorite book. One of my favorite books is an Israeli book, but it speaks about what happened 10 or 12 years ago in the cybersecurity. It's only in Hebrew, but the idea in the book is to tell us that something was changed 10 or 12 years ago when something happened. You can open the history and understand what happened 10 12 years ago. Some of the people in this was in this era. It speaks about when someone called it for real cybersecurity. Remember that I started cybersecurity in 2003. There was no cybersecurity until there was no name like cyber. It was something else. So it's on the era of switching to cybersecurity. That's an Israeli book.
Thank you. And what would you say is the biggest hobby that you enjoy today?
I don't know if you can see behind me, but I like to collect stuff. And my collection is between NBA and football and baseball and Pokemon. You can see the glove. It's a signed glove above me. It's a Mike Tyson signed glove. So that's my hobby. I'm doing it with my son. So it's a part of our family now to collect, not to collect stuff and put it in like boxes for years. It's about collecting. Again, it's NBA, it's baseball, it's football, it's Pokemon that my son really likes and I do. So that's my collection today.
Great. Memorabilia and Pokemon was something I grew up with as well. So yeah, I haven't touched a Pokemon card for years, but my son also started to collect them as well. So I know it's back in fashion. And just as we move towards the quick fire questions, I have a question from a co-founder of a security company. And their question is, if you have, well, you mentioned it earlier, you have the ace of marketing on your side, and they say to you at a certain point, what is the card that you will pull out which will make you completely different from everyone else in the industry?
Remediation. Fix the problem. And I'm looking for the one who will tell that they are doing the same to fix the problem. Because to fix the problem, that means you are taking responsibility as a vendor. The vendors are not taking responsibility to fix the problem. They are telling you there is a problem, but you need to fix it as a customer or client. We are fixing the problem. And it's in our title. We are doing remediation, mitigation, and fixing the problem, not just opening a ticket. So that's something that we are putting in the front and will be in the front forever.
Thank you very much for answering that, and very swiftly as well. And just before we let you go, I'd love you just to share a question for our next guest.
My question is based on the last one of the responses I gave you. How do you ensure your Gen AI technology, if you use, are not sending data out? Or if it does send data out, how do you ensure to the customer that the data is saved securely or sent encrypted? That's my question too.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And before we wrap up, Oren, I know you've got the last day of the Israeli conference today, so I hope you have a great time there. But could you share with the listeners where they can learn more about you, your work, and Veriti if they wanted to dive into the product a little bit deeper?
Yeah, if you go to veriti.ai, you have a few areas. One is, what do we do? So we have, of course, the testimonials like everyone else have to hear about us. You have all the documentations that you can download to understand our value. But when you go in and you want to book a demo or you want to book a security control assessment, that's the thing here. Have a look at the integrations, because when you will see all the logos, just ask yourself, do I have any one of those? You'll have minimum of 5. Because that's what we see. So first of all, just validate that we are relevant, and you will find that we are relevant. Second, security control assessment. Security control assessment means you don't need to pay for it. It's a very easy deployment. Eventually, I will give you all the findings, and I will allow you to remediate 10 of them, because I want to prove that I can change configuration across the security controls you have. So you can use it. You can tell me at the end, I don't want it, or I want it on the on-prem, I want it in the cloud, I want it as an MSSP, I want it as a SaaS. All of that is supported. Go to Veriti AI. The first step for me, let's book a demo. Let's meet. Let me show you what we know about your problem or your challenge. And let me just show you in a security control assessment, that we call it, that you can just see the challenges and resolve them. Not just see them and get alerts or tickets, also fix.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And it also allows, as you said, people that are interested to have an assessment and see that you can prove that you can remove some of the issues they're having. And just, again, I want to say thank you, Oren, for joining us today on the SaaS Leaders Lounge. It's been great having you to share your wisdom and share more information on Veriti's innovation approach to continuous threat exposure management and more. In terms of your plans for the future, I guess you're going to be in the RSA conference next month, I guess?
Like everyone else, it will be like a 35,000 people party. Definitely, yes.
Definitely. And I guess AI is going to be something you see on everyone's banners as well somewhere. But it has been an enlightening discussion with yourself, and I wish you a great day. Again, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you very much, Paris, for the time. It was a pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for listening for the podcast.
Thank you to all the listeners. If you do want to see more of this content, please subscribe. But Oren, you take care and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.